Hello, everybody, and welcome to week number 12 of the college football season here in 2017. And my predictions, it is the second to last week of college football, although there are some games for the weekend of the second, which quite frankly is confusing me a little bit looking at it. Anyway, let's not worry about that right now. I'll figure that out later. So I was looking ahead and I see Miami versus Clemson. I'm like, okay, well maybe that's just the ACC championship game. But then you have games like Louisiana Monroe and Florida State that same week. So I don't think that's the ACC championship game just because, but then again, maybe it is because there's a whole bunch of other games this week that are to be determined. So it has to be the ACC championship game, doesn't it? Frankly, I don't know. I believe it is. But we'll worry about that. I'll have an episode for all the conference championship games, and I'll have an episode for all the bowl games. Anyway, we're worried about week number 12, and of course, first, week number 11 last week, going over last week's picks. A little late this week, as it was with my NFL video, so in terms of the video, probably not going to do much editing. I'll just throw a couple pictures up about my picks and try and run through them pretty quickly. Should be a short video. And it's also going to be a short week on predictions, only 5 games this week, a really low quality selection of games this week. It's your typical SEC versus Cupcake opponent week. How exciting. Only one top 25 matchup in all of college football this week. We had 9 games last week and 10 games the week before. So, and I really had to scratch and claw just to collect 4 other games that wasn't the one top 25 matchup. But anyway, going back to last week, like I said, we had 9 picks. The first game was number 15 Oklahoma State is a 4.5-point favorite on the road against number 21 Iowa State. I picked Oklahoma State to win and cover the 4.5-point spread, which they do. They won that game 49-42. It was back and forth, lead changes, tie games, pretty much all the way to the very end, when Oklahoma State scores 2 straight touchdowns on 2 possessions to take the 7-point lead, which they hang on to win. So we got the pick and the spread right, which brought us to number 12 Michigan State on the road against number 13 Ohio State. Was a 15.5-point favorite. I picked Ohio State to win, but I thought Michigan State would hang in there. I did say Michigan State's not a good team. I've said it all year. I don't care what their rank is. I don't care who they've beaten. They're not a good team. And they go on the road and they lose 48-3, and it wasn't even that close. They get absolutely rolled by Ohio State. Ohio State wins. We got the pick right, spread wrong. Same for the next game. It was number 20 Iowa at number 8 Wisconsin. Wisconsin was a 12.5-point favorite. I said Wisconsin would win, which they do. But I thought Iowa would keep it a little bit closer than they did, but they do not. They end up losing that game by a score of 38-14. That brought us to number 1 Georgia. Is a 2.5-point favorite against number 10 Auburn on the road. I said that Auburn would pull off the upset and beat Georgia at home, and they do. They didn't only beat Georgia, they absolutely destroyed them 40-17. So I think Georgia's playoff hopes are done, and Auburn still has a fighting chance. They got to win out, but we'll see what they can do from here. A very impressive win by them, so we got that pick right, and obviously the spread right, as Auburn was the underdog. Then we had number 2 Alabama, a 14-point favorite on the road against number 16 Mississippi State. I said Alabama would win, which they do, but I thought Alabama was going to blow out Mississippi State, but they do not, so credit to Mississippi State. They showed up at home and gave Alabama a game, and quite frankly, were in position to win, and I think that they should have won. But of course, Alabama comes back. They end up winning that game 31-24. Pick right on that, spread wrong. That brought us to our upset of the week. I took Tennessee as a 10.5-point road favorite to win outright against Missouri. Last week I said Tennessee's coach was gone because I thought Butch Jones was fired. But it didn't last long because now he is actually fired after only 1 week of me saying that. And I said that Tennessee hasn't quite quit like Florida did, but they quit last week. They go into Missouri and get absolutely destroyed. They lose that game by a final score of 50-17. Then we had number 6 TCU on the road against number 5 Oklahoma. I took Oklahoma to win. They were a 6.5 point favorite. I picked TCU to cover that spread, but that did not quite work out very well as Oklahoma ends up winning that game by a score of 38-20. That brought us to my lock of the week. It was number 25 Northwestern. It's a 4.5 point favorite at home against Purdue. I said Northwestern will cover that spread pretty easily, which they do. They win that game 23-13. Then we had number 3 Notre Dame on the road against number 7 Miami. Notre Dame was a 3.5 point favorite. I took Notre Dame to win because, they've handled pretty much everybody they've played other than Georgia. And Miami just skated by a bunch of teams that they really should have beat pretty soundly, and they were unable to do. So I took Notre Dame to beat Miami, but Miami actually shows up for a game and they destroy Notre Dame. They actually end up winning this game by a score 41-8, which I like to see. I don't like Notre Dame, even though I picked them. So 9 games last week, we end up going 7-2 in our predictions straight up who would win. Only 3-6 against the spread though. Got the upset of the week wrong, but we got the lock. So after 11 weeks of college football, we are 62-28 overall and 42-49 overall against the spread. Not very good. 3-7 against the upsets, which is all right. They're upsets for a reason. And 7-4 against for my locks of the week. So that brings us to week number 12. We're almost through with the season, unfortunately. 5 games this week, as I mentioned. First game is actually going to be my lock of the week. It is Virginia, the Cavaliers, on the road against number 3 Miami. Miami is an 18-point favorite in this one, so you're probably thinking I'm rolling with Miami, but no, I am not. I'm going with Virginia to lose. Let me get that out of the way. They will lose. Miami will win. But my lock of the week is the fact that Virginia will not lose by more than 18 points. I like Virginia to keep this game not close, but to within 18 at least. Virginia's actually been a pretty good team this year. They are 6-5 overall, 3-3 in the ACC. They've gotten blown out a few times, including against Boston College, of all teams, and Pittsburgh. So, no, there's no way Virginia wins. But Miami, before last week, has let a lot of teams that they're way better than hang in there. And coming off of such a great win last week, I think you're going to see a little bit of a letdown from Miami. They'll probably win this game by 10 to 14 points. But that's why it's my lock of the week. I think Virginia keeps it to within 18, but Miami will win. Then that brings us to the only top 25 matchup of the week. It is number 24 Michigan on the road against number 5 Wisconsin. Wisconsin coming off of that win at home against Iowa, where they won by 24 points. Michigan coming off of a 35-10 win on the road against Maryland. This game is in Wisconsin, and Wisconsin is a 7-point favorite. But I think Michigan actually matches up very well with Wisconsin. This game will be very defense-oriented, or at least it should be. This is the number 1 and number 2 defense in the Big Ten. Both of them top 5 defenses in the country. So it should be a very good game defensively. If you like defense, tune into this one. But I think Michigan actually matches up pretty well with Wisconsin. And this is probably the best team Wisconsin's played so far, because the best team they've played so far is Iowa. And yeah, Iowa destroyed Ohio State, but I'm not convinced that Iowa is a really good team. Neither is Michigan, but I think Michigan against Iowa, neutral field, I think Michigan would be favored. So I think Michigan's a little bit better than Iowa. This is a noon game. Camp Randall's a hard place to play, but noon is a lot better than having to play later in the day, especially in college. So it'll be interesting. I think Wisconsin should win, but Michigan is due for an upset win. Michigan has yet to win a game as an underdog, except maybe I think they were an underdog against Florida in the Citrus Bowl at the end of 2015. But yeah, Michigan's yet to win a game as an underdog under Jim Harbaugh. They're due to do it on the road at noon. I think Michigan's going to go in as a 7-point underdog and beat Wisconsin, who has all the pressure in the world as they have to win out to make the playoffs. I think Michigan catches them, and Michigan pulls off the win against Wisconsin. Then that brings us to Kentucky on the road against number 7 Georgia. Georgia is a 21.5-point favorite. Like I said, I really had to just kind of scratch the bottom of the barrel to fill out some games this week. I'm going to go with Georgia to win, but I'll take Kentucky to keep it to within 3 scores because Kentucky's been all right this year, and Georgia getting absolutely blown out, their first loss of the year. Probably aren't going to be very excited to get back out there. I think they should be. They should be wanting to get back out there and righting the wrongs from last week and blowing out Kentucky. But I think Kentucky is pretty good, and I think Kentucky will be able to hang in there. So Georgia to win, Kentucky to cover that 21.5. That's just a huge spread. Then we have Navy on the road against number 8 Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a 15-point favorite. Whenever you're playing a team like Navy or even Air Force and Army, I'm not a big fan of spreads over 2 scores. I mean, technically this is only 2 scores, 15 points, but it's over 2 touchdowns and 2 extra points, 15 points. Because these, actually I was reading it wrong, my bad. It's 18 points. My eyes aren't very good. So it is over a 2-score spread. It's a 3-point spread, or 3-score spread, I mean. So whenever you're playing a service academy, I don't like spreads that high. It's really hard to beat these teams by 3 scores just because of how they play. They eat up almost half a quarter every time they get the ball if they can put together a couple first downs, which they usually can because options are hard to defend, triple options, that is. So just for the sake of Navy being pretty good and the type of offense they run and the type of game they play, I think they will keep this game to within 18. But I think that Notre Dame should win, so I'm going to go with Notre Dame to win and Navy to cover. Which brings me to my upset of the week, which means I have all 5 of my favorites this week not covering their spreads, but only 2 underdogs winning. And this one is Maryland on the road against number 17 Michigan State. Michigan State is a 15.5-point favorite. Now, yes, I hate Michigan State, but this is more or less, there's really nothing else really stood out to me. If I wouldn't put money on this game, and quite frankly, I think Michigan State will win. But it is my upset of the week because I think Maryland has a pretty good shot. Maryland's down to their 4th or 5th quarterback. I don't even know what it is anymore. They're not a very good team, and they're on the road. But I think Michigan State, they're obviously beat up after playing Ohio State. They got absolutely destroyed. I think Maryland will come in feeling pretty good. They're fighting for a bowl. Maryland's still bowl eligible if they can win their final 2, but probably not going to happen as they have Michigan State and then Penn State. But I think Maryland comes in. I think they play a pretty good game. And for the sake of an upset of the week, I think Maryland beats Michigan State on the road and pulls off the win. So that will do it for this week, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, be sure to comment below your thoughts on any of my predictions this week or any of your predictions, whether it was on any of the games I predicted or any other game on the schedule. And of course, subscribe for next week where we break down all these games I just predicted and predict all the other games that I find interesting next week, which there should be a few just for the sake of rivalry week, even if one team's not very good. You never know in rivalry games. So I'll probably have a good batch of games, even if on paper the matchups aren't very good. So I'll see you all then. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Oklahoma State on the road is a 4.5-point favorite against number 21 Iowa State. Hello? Hi. I know, I'm in the middle of recording.
Oh, okay, then never mind. Well, actually, no. Do you want anything from the store?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Love you, bye. Ohio State was a 15.5-point favorite